The show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Frankly, whichever way you're on with us, able to see it, able to add your comments, view the broadcast, whatever works for you, that's the right place for you to be. That's why we mention all the ways that you can, in case you happen to forget, because there's a lot of them out there these days. We're more connected than ever, but we still need to be talking about the important things to us, because having access to everything but not able to actually divine the impact and talk about the things that they actually create for us, those of us who live here in the borderland, it's more connected and yet somehow further apart than ever, is the way I feel about it. So what we do here is talk about the things affecting us here in the borderland and all the ways that end up coming up for you. And we have a bunch of them coming up as this shortish week. Yes, it always kind of feels like that kind of pregnant pause right before you hit the holidays, doesn't it? Here, like this isn't a real week, but you still got to get stuff done. I know it's weird, particularly when we're in, online and other traditional media here. Any case, got a bunch of stuff up for you on the docket today, as we have Austin Redfern over on the social media, Facebook there. Good afternoon as well as Eric von Holstein-Rathlau. Good afternoon to you as well. I'm wishing everyone a good afternoon with the eyeglasses, smiling emoji there, sunglasses emoji. Appreciate that. And again, also having those likes and reacts, Richard Janasik, Richard Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Monica Cervantes, and Jim McCavey. And Austin Redford asking if we're going live Friday. No, we will be out of the office for the last 2 days of this week here. So another early-ish free-for-all show that will be happening. And also, rock on going on out there. Some of the other comments. This will be, again, shortish week. Not expecting y'all to be with us on Turkey Day or while throwing elbows at Walmart. Please don't throw elbows at Walmart, but I know someone out there is going to do so. Don't be that person. Be the one holding the phone, capturing that so you can get the social media views for yourself there, and send us a copy of it. I'd definitely like to see it here. Also, just don't throw elbows. Don't be that person or those people, because hopefully there won't be many of them out there. But no, we will not be on for Thanksgiving. Wouldn't expect y'all to tune in to us here. Expect y'all to be doing whatever works for you, whether it be with turkey coma or pass that in front of a TV, or just a lot of things involving not being conscious on Thanksgiving Day. And then for Friday we'll be out of the office as well, with some replacement programming happening, new stuff, but just not as much local as usual, but needs must at certain points. So we won't be on Friday, but we'll be back with you next week, of course. And in the meantime, again, a lot of stuff to talk about here locally, a lot going on, including El Paso's district attorney facing, a lot of developments coming in the courtroom, both whenever it comes to one of the biggest cases in recent memory, when it comes to the Walmart shooting case, the indicted shooter in that case, one of the lead assistant district attorneys resigning, not even just from that case. And RJ saying, no elbows, use your feet, block out here. Listen, if you're having to start talking about Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu moves whenever it comes to shopping, you're not doing it right. I gotta say here. So again, please don't. Just like online ordering. It's so easy these days. And just make sure you got a good internet connection, and sure, you can scoop those deals here. But again, on the El Paso district attorney facing increasing challenges on a variety of both public and personal cases in the actual Walmart shooting case, the August 3rd case, facing the, resignation of the chief attorney after his requested removal from the case there. And John Brazelton still, I'm taking this as jealousy at this point, as opposed to direct ire, because the way you constantly multiply the amount of time we're taking off here for the scheduled holidays, like if you thought that Thanksgiving is a luxury, I am very happy I don't work in that kind of job anymore. Let me put that way at RJ saying for basketball. Block out, use your keep it low and keep those elbows out. I get what you're saying there. But yes, the El Paso district attorney facing just a whole lot of issues whenever it comes to professionally or personally, professionally, I guess would be the way to put it. The removal case, not even just, of course, with the actual case itself being set for March now, but there being further efforts to essentially have injunctions in the meantime, and also some more significant updates whenever it comes to the actual Walmart case, one of the more significant ones for the community as a whole, but also some other challenges going on, including the immigration situation, seeing some of those local numbers tick up slightly as there are more plans to discuss what to be done with that pending lifting of Title 42, the kind of only real remaining enforcement policy beyond the putting them in the very, I mean, by anyone's admission, stressed immigration and immigration adjudication system there. But also, I mean, I know that we have our watchdogs out there looking at costs of things, some reporting going on that, what is going to be looking like the increased costs around the borderland, and even some updates coming out about specifically what's going to be going on with some of those potential bonds around the area. Some kibosh getting put on some, and still some in limbo as well. So even though it's a short week, we got plenty to talk about. Don't you worry your little heads anywhere out. If you got a big head, I never find a hat that fits me either, so I commiserate with you entirely. So diving straight into it with El Paso's district attorney, of course, we were mentioning that removal case that is proceeding and is certainly causing some headaches for the district attorney, but more than just that, there is a hearing coming up to see if they will be, well, suspended from the office until that actual recall trial progresses. From our news partners over there at KFOX 14, a court date to determine if the El Paso District Attorney Yvonne Rosales will be suspended from her position has now been set. The hearing comes after El Paso County Attorney Joan Bernal filed an amended petition to remove Rosales from public office. The petition, filed as of this week, cites, quote, failure to charge cases in a timely manner, defendants released under bond conditions, significant decrease in case filings, handling of the Gabaldon case, handling of the Walmart shooting case, and bad faith by Rosales. So there is now a hearing set for December 15th. So a little bit over half a month away at this point to decide, or close. Let's call it just under a month at this point, to decide whether Rosales will be suspended while the recall case against her moves forward. So that was one of the things that we heard when we originally talked with, well, the attorney that actually filed, the local defense attorney that filed the removal petition against Rosales, was this was being a part that was going to be sought from it. So not exactly surprising, just adding to the issues here, as also was reported. I feel like sometimes, this might be mild paranoia on my part, that some, like, if there's going to be like huge news that happens right after we go off air, like each day, it used to be worse when we were weekly, because then it would be like, of course, right after we were on air for that week and we have to catch up for next week. But right after we went off air on Friday, even some of y'all sent me the story about the fact that actually some of the attorneys for Yvonne Rosales, personal attorneys in this case, on that removal case, asking to be removed from it, citing quote-unquote conflict, according to court filings we reported on by both our news partners there at KFOX 14, as well as other reporting concerns in town, specifically referencing the El Paso Matters, the El Paso Matters reporting on this here, that 3 attorneys that are representing her have been asked to be taken off the case as of the end of last week, again, citing that conflict with her. Patrick Wilson, David Chavez, and Luis Yanez have been representing Rosales, and again, that case to remove her, the recall case, I think is the best way to refer to it here. And of course, local defense attorney Omar Carmona having requested that. So some of the questions coming up here, because this gets complicated pretty quick. Not that it would expect anyone to think, oh, legal stuff, that's just super simple, right? Yeah, no, that's literally never how that works. A couple of questions coming in. Rocco Jimenez asking, if she is removed, what is the process for replacing her? To my understanding, there will be an election eventually, but in the interim, at the very least, before any kind of either dates are set or if they're just going to finish out the term of office, I'm not quite clear on that myself. But to my understanding, that was one of those added bits of stakes to the gubernatorial race this year. I do believe that my understanding is the governor will then appoint the replacement for her until such time as an election either happens or is called. So, yeah. Also, RJ, further commentary on that, saying that Yvonne needs to go AWOL for the rest of her term. Slightly different, I think, that you're talking about from what has been put in court filings about unable to locate her, including by process servers. But, I mean, some of the concerns he's bringing up there as well, including the cases that have been dismissed. And, of course, those part of those new filings out as of today. So, increasingly embattled local district attorney Yvonne Rosales Well, John Brazelton actually calling it for a little bit of a legal chicane. And RJ saying that she's the reason for the 10-foot pole in the legal community. I have made quite a lot of use of a 10-foot pole in a lot of topics in my own realm, but actually John Brazelton claiming this a bit of chicanery beyond that, saying oldest trick in the book, keep changing lawyers and you will never, I'm assuming you meant go to trial there. I'm not sure that's going to be able to necessarily fly with this, because this is not well, I don't know. This is almost unprecedented, except that there are laws in the books with this, but point to me a time in recent history in our area anyway that something like this has happened, and particularly this kind of high drama level of it. And there's not a whole lot of like, oh, this is how it worked last time. That's totally how it'll go. I have a sense that any kind of trickery, those kind of things, may not be totally accepted by any judge, given the amount of scrutiny that will be on this. Like, sure, if it was, maybe even have some of those big corporate cases where there are high-powered attorneys and they're all in it for the fees anyway, sure, a little bit of maneuvering might be acceptable or even expected. I just don't have a good sense, but I get a nagging feeling that it might not exactly be able to work out that way. And Eric von Holstein-Rathel asking, I think the governor can appoint an interim replacement until an election can be held. I think the question then would be whether it would be that the interim just holds until the next regular election, which would potentially be within a year or two, or if there would be one that would be called. That's the point that I'm unclear on. But yeah, to my understanding, that was one of those further amped up stakes, at least for our local area, out of the recent election, even if we're not done with that election by any means whenever it comes to those city council positions. Speaking of which, some of those discussions set for city council whenever it comes to the actual issues being dealt with by city council, specifically referring to Title 42 there and the immigration response. So tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we will come back and talk more about that, as well as many of the other things affecting us here in the borderland. You are, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. After this break, more talk about the things affecting us here in the borderland, including those immigration and border security concerns, maybe a little bit about immigration as well, and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On your El Paso freeways, just a couple of stalled vehicles on the left shoulder, I-10 eastbound at Sunland Park. 2 semis are stalled on the right shoulder, I-10 eastbound at Piedras. Slow traffic on Global Reach with 20-minute delays from Liberty Expressway down to Montana. And all northbound lanes on Railroad still closed at Hondo Pass due to an earlier crash. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
Are algorithms controlling our lives? Red Pilled America continues its deep dive into that question. In part 2, we tell the story behind the creation of Netflix's algorithm and how they used it to do the seemingly impossible. Listen to Red Pilled America on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
You wash your hands, you brush your teeth, but what about the nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, and germs. And it's why cleaning your nose, the body's air filter, is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons. Sinusitis, colds, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Over 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying, best product I've ever used, and amazing, I love my Navage. Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less, but the biggest payoff is improved health. Navage is good personal hygiene and can help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
On the podcast, Rewives with Bethany Frankel, join Bethany along with unexpected thought leaders and her celebrity friends to rehash, revisit, and rewatch the most iconic episodes of The Housewives from all your favorite cities.
This season, I sit down with Elizabeth Moss, Kevin Nealon, Susie Orman, Griffin Johnson, and more. You'd think that there isn't much to learn from flipping tables and yanking wigs, but that's where you're wrong.
Listen to Rewives with Bethany Frankel on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
It's easy to get wrapped up in the spirit of giving, but you might be giving away more than you want. During the holidays, more shopping online means more exposed personal information. But LifeLock by Norton has identity theft protection all wrapped up. And if you become a victim, they work to fix it with you. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but you can save up to 25% off your first year right now. 1-800-LifeLock, 1-800-LifeLock, or lifelock.com, promo code BACK for 25% off.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk. Again, we mention all of those not because you need to have encyclopedic knowledge of it, but because whatever works for you to add your 2 cents, see what we got going on, or at least tune in. If you're in your car, please don't be on your cell phone as well. Just don't do that. We don't need it. Just like throwing elbows during Black Friday. None of this is necessary, and you can definitely be doing it better ways. Help you all stay safe out there in any way you're doing it. In any case, a lot more to talk about here. Of course, we are in the further countdown. That if you go to epcountyvotes.com, they got that handy dandy next election countdown clock. And if you are all confused about what's going on there, yeah, we got another 25 days. So we won't be going necessarily as hog wild as we did with the other elections, though the temptation is there. Make no mistake. We do have those 3 city council positions that are up for grabs when it comes to those runoffs. So narrowed fields, but certainly important ones as example and exemplified by the fact that we're still looking at, even just from the data coming out from the city of El Paso. Again, you can see this for yourself, elpasotexas.gov/migrant-crisis. There are migrant dashboards, and still referring to the migrant crisis and things like that, and showing that there has been an increasing uptick ever since Title 42, the back and forth that has been coming out on that. Just as a brief refresher for the start of the week here, we did have, of course, the recent situations causing, the creation of this dashboard, some of the local responses having to be go on, and the overwhelming of the existing federal and even local nonprofit resources requiring local government to essentially step in, is that we had that influx of specifically Venezuelan origin points, people attempting to cross the border, make asylum claims, what have you. And that's given the fact that traditional means of dealing with it were not as viable, at the very least, whenever it comes to people being admitted to the U.S., pending further immigration court hearings, going on to further communities, wherever their support networks are, not really existing for the those of the Venezuelan origin points. And so Title 42, the waning program, even by that point, several weeks, if not a few months ago at this point, frankly, having become more civ-like than an absolute that it was initially put into place under the Trump administration, we saw that there was a drop-off, a significant one, but, frankly, the numbers have continued pretty well apace. To give you an example, it was approximately a month and a half ago, week 40 of the year, which is still a weird way to put it, but if you think about it, 52 weeks, you can kind of figure out where things are of each year. So in week 40, we hit a recent high watermark of community releases by calendar week, again, according to that migrant crisis dashboard, of about 6,800, 6,804, if you want to be very exact with it. And immediately after the administration announced Title 42 would be enforced upon those from Venezuelan origin points, we did see a drop-off of about not quite half. I'll call it just above half of those numbers being seen. 6,804 going down to 36, just about 3,700 releases that weekend. It has, since that point, stayed level and then begun to creep back up. For the most recent week, the most recent complete week, week 46, if you're counting it that way, we saw 5,300 and change community releases. And while the in-custody rolling 7-day average has been decreasing somewhat after, more than a little bit of a roller coaster ride on that, we're also seeing encounters creeping back up. That same week of week 40 we were talking about there were on the 7-day rolling average, so kind of per day, about 2,000 encounters being seen by Border Patrol. And after dipping down decently significantly to about 1,200 in the weeks immediately after Title 42's change. It has now crept back up for the most recent full week. Again, week 46, about 1866, if you want to be very specific looking at the numbers. Again, you can verify, take a look at these for yourselves here, and tell me what you think about them over in our comments. So the fact of the matter is that also with now that impending end of Title 42 and the back and forth on it, of course, a federal court judge said that the title program is no longer enforceable, and then came back of, well, there will be a delayed period when it will become unenforceable. That kind of thing is definitely leaving a lot of questions in limbo. And particularly with the local response here, the busing has ended, but there are still a lot of resources that have been marshaled, including some of the welcome centers, processing centers, shelters, and particularly as we are looking at those colder than we usually like around here temperatures, including some who have a very particular, dislike of those colder temperatures for, wanting the colder temperatures actually for holidays is what someone was telling me about. Point of the matter is that there are a lot of questions remaining, including that there are some updates coming for El Paso City Council. If you're wondering why I mentioned the elections at the start of this segment, here's a hint. They're going to be having direct impact on these and likely going forward, including El Paso City Council, according to our news partners over there at KFOX 14, discussing this on Monday about how it's preparing for another migrant surge once Title 42 lifts next month. There's not a whole lot of forecasting that can really be done in these kind of situations, but I think in general it's reasonable to expect that, given the change in policy and how that will very much be signal boosted both by those seeking to cross and those seeking to make money off of those seeking to cross here, coyotes, cartels, etc. You know what I'm talking about there. That there are still, and what specifically previous guests on the show, El Paso Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino said to City Council, is that the city is currently still seeing migrant street releases, although not as many during the height of the crisis back in October, again, a few months ago, but that the releases will probably increase significantly and see the numbers seen in September and October, and this is my interpretation, potentially over those points here. Again, according to the city's presentation there, 2,100 migrants were released in the months of September and October, and in November so far, we've been seeing about 4,600 migrants a week. So we got a lot of potential issues coming from that, the logistics for the city alone, and also being noted there that there is still being waiting on the $7 million reimbursement from the federal government, and more specifically, they will not be reopening the Migrant Welcome Center. D'Agostino speaking during the meeting, again, quoting from our reporting there from our news partners at KFOX 14, quote, Customs and Border Protection asked us a few weeks back, our federal partners asked us if we could possibly stand up a processing center again. What we told them is that we couldn't do that. We need the reimbursement or we need advanced funding for an operation that size because it is a tax on the community. And that, again, city officials further saying that depending on the number of unsponsored migrants, El Paso may need to revisit the efforts of busing migrants to other cities. So a lot still on the table, effectively, is where it's coming down with some of these updates. Of course, some of the previous things being said by county side of government, where it's my understanding they're still doing some of their processing centers or the welcome centers, whatever you call them at this point. There's a bunch of different names referring to pretty much the same things. The biggest difference is whether they're moving through or whether they're staying there for a time being the processing, welcome, and or shelter. Basically, I think is the biggest difference that comes out at this point. So all counting down to that December 21st date of when the program will end, that, it was announced about 5 weeks, but now just about, exactly a month out from today as we're speaking about it. One of the things that I think was interesting to juxtapose is similar statements of previous nature coming out from the county judge, Ricardo Samaniego, saying that we'll be ready for it. Again, me slightly paraphrasing there, which I hope that will be accurate if possible this time around here. A couple other comments coming in. John Browson saying saw a few dozen walking around airways. Wondering how you understood that they were those who crossed into the U.S., if they were going around and shopping, because you're just calling it general people in El Paso. Good luck with that. And Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying, hate to see how bad the border would have to get before the powers would admit it's not secure. And JC asking, what will happen is that we're going to see a lot more of community release since Title 42 will not be an option. Therefore, more will come, a lot more. Again, some of the expectation already being had and already being discussed within City Council, and probably more discussions will be happening with a lot of other agencies and local governing bodies in the coming weeks. So, yeah, we'll see how this works out. One of the many things that we'll have to keep our eye on. But yeah, speaking of those governments, there are more. And Robbie Flores saying a welcome center is an oxymoron. That's why I was saying welcome center, processing center. They often serve more or less the same purpose. If you got semantics issue with them, I think you know who to take that up with. Saying a welcome center is an oxymoron. They're only welcome if they arrive via legal means. And John Browson saying they weren't dressed for cold weather. It was obvious. Listen, I don't know if you've ever noticed around here, but I had like friends back in high school that would wear shorts year round, regardless if it was actually snowing or not. So I'm not saying that that's a good criteria to gauge the legal status of someone here. So just saying your mileage may vary. Anyway, got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, whole lot more to talk about, including those local governments, including the fate of a couple different public funding efforts, what might be happening with them, even as there are all these other questions to be resolved here. So stay tuned. More after this next break. You are tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Stay tuned. More on the show after this break. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hey everyone, this is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. El Paso District Attorney Yvonne Rosales could be suspended from her job until the outcome of a trial that seeks to remove her from office. That decision as to whether she should be temporarily suspended will take place at a court hearing on December 15th. A district judge says he'll determine whether Rosales should be temporarily suspended from office pending trial. If so, the appointment of another person to perform the duties of office will take place. Rosales is facing a civil trial that seeks to remove her from office, alleging incompetence. That civil trial is set to start on March 13th. El Paso police have identified a suspect in an early morning hit and run that killed a 42-year-old pedestrian. According to police, Jared Scott Ressa was killed when he was hit by a vehicle driven by 23-year-old Johan Ricardo Jaime. It happened Saturday night at about 12:30. Ressa was struck crossing Mesa near Kern Street. Police say he was not in a crosswalk. According to police, the driver left the scene but returned an hour later and was arrested on a charge of accident involving death. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
El Paso freeway is crash-free right now. The 54 southbound is slow. Stan Roberts down to Kenworthy is an 18-minute delay. I-10 eastbound at Copia, stalled semis blocking the right shoulder. Got an accident reported Rayner at Pershing Drive. And road construction has the left lanes closed both north and southbound on Donovan Drive between Thorne and East Red. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. After a cool and kind of dreary weekend, we are starting off our new work week, which is the holiday week ahead, under some very quiet weather. In fact, temperatures will rebound nicely back to the 60s. That is, of course, until our next weather maker, which brings colder temperatures for Thanksgiving and even possibly a chance for some rain. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has you covered for all your custom printing, just in time for the holidays. And right now at Staples, you can save 40% on custom holiday cards and invitations, in-store and online. Offer ends 12/17. Exclusions and restrictions apply. Explore more at Staples, the working and learning store.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now, so do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand. Finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
What if there was a place where you could listen to all the radio stations, music, and podcasts you love? And what if that place was free? Well, we couldn't find it, so we made it. Download our free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts.
Are algorithms controlling our lives? Red Pilled America continues its deep dive into that question. In part 2, we tell the story behind the creation of Netflix's algorithm and how they used it to do the seemingly impossible. Listen to Red Pilled America on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get podcasts. That's Red Pilled America.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot to get to in all the ways that we do here, but of course, comments coming in over on the social media. John Brazelton, Robbie Flores, Juan Carlos Escobar Lazo, JC for short, Eric Van Holstein Rathlow, RJ over on the YouTube, referring to the district attorney situation as stalling the inevitable. Yeah, again, I don't think there's so much stalling that can really be done in those cases, because this is not just your regular lawsuit in which you can throw the book at it. I think that there are some prescribed deadlines actually at this point that need to be worked at and enforced here, but a lot more commentary coming in. They're dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Alex Campos, Amber Banda, Richard Janisic, Robbie Flores, Flaco Jimenez, Monica Cervantes, and Jim McCravey. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It helps with all the algorithmic things as we try to have the whole live local talk radio thing going on here. A few other things I want to mention as, of course, part of the immigration situation, and one I didn't even really get to so far, being reported on by the Texas Tribune and the Military Times, is that the Texas Guard, the Texas State Guard, will actually be, and this is where I take issue. I'll just read the headline to you and see if you can figure out why I might take issue with it. Texas Guard to send tank-like military vehicles to the border here. And I get it. It kind of comes in with the whole firearms debate. Anything that looks a certain way is definitely that category. Technically, they're talking about sending armored personnel carriers, APCs, the M113s, which I've never had the good, or depending on who has bad fortune to be in, but they're the battle taxis. That, I think, would be best example I can think of in popular media would be pretty decently shown in like Black Hawk Down as some of the armored vehicles being sent. It's an armored carrier. And so definitely an armored vehicle, but not exactly a tank. So that's where I take my issue with that headline. But in any case, there's going to be a couple dozen of them potentially put into maybe 10 locations along the border. This continuing with, of course, what Governor Greg Abbott has been talking about, as he has been shifting up his rhetoric and kind of amping up the pressure, I guess might be the best way to talk about it. It was very interesting to see what exactly would come out of his change in rhetoric, the change in the word choice, particularly using the invasion framework that he has been pushing forward. And that would, well, more or less fit with it. So the exact number and the exact spaces are, okay, actually 10 M113, but about 50 soldiers, according to the Texas Tribune here, actually trained to operate the vehicles, and those stations where they'll actually be stationed later to be determined. Local response is a part of that in this case, including as part of the actual story here, Fernando Garcia, executive director for the Border Network for Human Rights, saying in the article, quote, Abbott is trying to justify the narrative of the invasion and therefore using this to part of the optics along with it. Again, this is all further part of Operation Lone Star, that program that's been going on for a while now. I don't think I can really pin down an actual inciting date of it, but certainly taking quite a lot more prominence and precedent, particularly even within the re-election campaign, as one of the major points being brought up. And, well, it's interesting to see that that was not, in this case, just rhetoric, something that is continuing to be pushed by Abbott there. So that's just one other amping up aside the local situation. So no confirmation just yet if that will be in or not in our area. And one other bit of Texas-wide news, I guess to be an important one to get to, is that Ted Cruz, Texas senator, has confirmed he will seek a third term in 2024. Whether or not that will be the next challenge for, well, yeah, I mean, the speculation has already started. I am positive, but whether or not that will be O'Rourke's next stab at it, that has not been formally announced or mentioned just yet, though I know that question is out there in some people's minds here. A couple other things I want to mention on the home front is that a couple of those bond efforts that we have talked about, one that had the petition drive against it, that of the UMC/El Paso County Hospital District bond. It's still a bit of an uncertain future. El Paso Matters reporting on this here as of the start of this week. UMC still uncertain if bond issue will be taken to voters. Of course, there was that previous petition effort. So to delineate the different petitions we've been talking about, there's the petitioning of the court that's going on with the district attorneys and that removal case in which that will go to an actual court trial. As you can imagine, more of a drama-filled kind of circumstance, the way that could play out, besides like pistols at dawn. But otherwise, we are talking about this as the actual petition drive, the about 30,000+ people that submitted them, about just over 30,000 ended up being accepted in order to stop the consideration of that. Roughly, I mean, the numbers varied a bit. I don't think it could be over $400 million as part of it. $346 million, I think, was the final number that was being set on for the submission. But specifically, that this can no longer move forward as a certificate of obligation. It would have to go to voters for at least the next couple of years. I do believe that there is kind of a time limit on it, but also the fact that they can't bring up anything like revamp it, change the wording slightly. If it's going to be on these same type of issues they're wanting to address, it will have to go before voters. So there's actually a little bit of question of how that will move forward, if anything. I mean, the next election is set for May, and there's actually a Q&A from El Paso Matters on that, of what they are actually going to consider doing. And according to Jacob Citron, CEO of the UMC, saying that this time they are reviewing our options and next steps with our board of managers and county commissioners. So there's kind of not really a concrete answer there so far in any case, but also the county was considering its own idea of a couple different bonds, one certificate of obligation, one other part of it. Similar for two parts, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Certificate of obligation, about that roughly $100 million we talked about, as well as potentially $100 million being put onto the ballot as general obligation bond. Essentially, the delineation there, at least the way when we're talking legally speaking about how these can be formulated, is are these immediate infrastructure needs, very defined things, stuff that needs to happen more or less promptly and for very defined reasons, whereas the general obligation bonds end up being a bit more, okay, this is more my phrasing, a bit more aspirational. At least that's the way I tend to think about it. But yeah, still kind of brakes put on that here. So given the mixed bag that have happened with big bonds in El Paso lately, I guess I'm not surprised that at least slow rolling, if even reconsidering entirely, is the case for a number of these. So those are some of the things as we get into this shortish and holiday week. Seriously, expect things to slow way the heck down unless something emergency happens before we get to Turkey Day itself here. Hope you already got your shopping done, and I have been on the hunt for actually, heavy whipping cream has been the obscure object that got everything else, just about everything. I'm sure we forgot something that will then be like, 8 p.m. on Wednesday night trying to, again, not throw elbows, but heavily considering it at the store. But well, hope you all have it well in hand there as well. So we'll go ahead and take that next break now and go ahead and open up those phone lines as we do at this point regularly during the show. If you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On El Paso freeways, all north and southbound exit lanes on Joe Battle at North Loop Drive are closed, and there's a backup to the I-10 interchange. A vehicle's blocking the right lane on Martin Luther King Boulevard approaching the 54 Gateway. 54 South is slow with delays from Sean Haggerty down to Trans Mountain, and Global Reach 10-minute delays from Liberty Expressway down to Montana. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Armed Forces Bank. Armed Forces Bank is thankful for our military community. Get fast approvals and flexible terms on access loans starting at $750. Visit afbank.com/military loan. Armed Forces Bank, this is who we are. Subject to credit approval, terms and fees apply. Member FDIC.
Every week, hundreds of thousands of fans download the popular Stuff They Don't Want You to Know podcast to get to the bottom of popular culture's biggest myths. And now, the Stuff They Don't Want You to Know book separates conspiracy fact from conspiracy theory, from biological testing to our endless fascination with the Kennedy assassination. This holiday season, give the gift that explains the unexplainable. The Stuff They Don't Want You to Know book. Available now. Order at stuffyoushouldreadbooks.com or wherever you buy your books.
When you need your home or business clean, leave it to the big dogs. Bulldogs Professional Cleaning won't quit until your space is sparkling clean. We do it all. Carpet cleaning, pet treatment, deep cleaning, and more. We provide superior service using eco-friendly chemicals. Trash and appliance pickup is available with a disposal fee. Your prices can't be beat. See why homes, offices, and restaurants have trusted Bulldogs Professional Cleaning for 7 years. Schedule your cleaning today. Call Bulldogs Professional Cleaning at 915-694-4643.
Want to get a $300 Visa card from your Medicare plan? At WellCare, our Medicare Advantage plans are simplified so you can enjoy all the great benefits you care about most, like our WellCare Flex card, a preloaded debit card that gives you up to $300 to pay for extra dental, vision, or hearing expenses not covered by your plan, like hearing aids, dentures, prescription glasses, copays, and more. It's just one more way WellCare is improving every aspect of Medicare to give you access to the top-tier benefits you want most, plus a little extra. To learn more about WellCare, visit wellcarefornm.com today. That's wellcarefornm.com to enroll today. WellCare, it's Medicare done well. Benefits vary by plan. WellCare is the Medicare brand for Centene Corporation, an HMO, PPO, PFFS, PDP plan with a Medicare contract, and is an approved Part D sponsor. Our DSNP plans have a contract with the state Medicaid program. Enrollment in our plans depends on contract renewal.
This season is full of can't-miss moments.
Touchdown!
Like getting an updated COVID vaccine. It protects against the original COVID virus and Omicron. Find updated COVID vaccines for everyone 5 and older at vaccines.gov.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
We might have just witnessed the last cryptocurrency bull run, but not for Bitcoin, which I think will run again soon. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to The Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. However you most prefer it to be here. And at least one thing that I wanted to mention here, if only because we have our price watchdog out there in the comments, that some local reporting going on about the anticipated costs of the actual amount of a Thanksgiving dinner for a family of 10, up about 20%. Them actually citing it from the American Farm Bureau Federation, about $64 up from $53 last year. Honestly, I am not sure that I've ever spent that, except for like sad and alone kind of time here, that I've spent that little on a Thanksgiving dinner. So, hey, if you're able to get off that cheaply here, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm looking at the numbers they got there for it, and like, sure, like a turkey, about 16-pound turkey, about $28. Cranberries about $2.50. Sweet potatoes $4. So I guess maybe, but I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like that's not actually really okay. They don't have beer in there. Let's just put it that way. So that's not most of the Thanksgivings I've ever actually been to. So maybe we're not exactly doing an apples to apples comparison for what I have in my mind versus what they're talking about there. Any case, let me hope you all have a happy one there and that you got all your preparations in place or are prepared to get creative, shall we say. I am sure that potato chips would serve crushed up as maybe not as good as like the the French as onions if you really need to in a pinch there. I was never a huge green bean casserole person myself, but I've heard some interesting approximations made. Anyway, let's get back to those phone lines now. Again, the number to call if you want to get on the line, those open at this point during the show, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Just wanted to, kind of an interesting feeling that I've got here. About Pelosi's attack.
Oh,
it seems like we've got an oops in the reporting on the attack.
Okay.
Now, according to the DOJ, of course, Pelosi, the police opened the door of his house, and you've heard this, I'm sure. After a knock and announce, this is what Amagir, the reporter, said that he saw the body cam. The 82-year-old did not immediately declare an emergency or tried to leave his home, but instead began walking several feet back into the foyer toward the assailant and away from the police. And we've heard that report, right? You know, that's one of the things that we've heard. There's two different accounts. We haven't seen the body cam. The body cam, for some reason or other, every other body cam, whenever we have some kind of incident, it's always on the news. But for some reason or other, we can't see the body cam here. But now I was reading a Washington Examiner report that was released about 3 days ago. And in addition to exactly what they said about the thing before, now they've added, it's unclear. Now, I've never seen this before. It's unclear if the 82-year-old was already injured or what his mental state was, say sources. Isn't that kind of curious?
I mean, whenever it comes to an investigation under progress, even a very high-profile one like this, and when there were a lot of, things that don't make sense in retrospect and probably will have a lot more light shown on them, including the fact that there wasn't actually the, protection detail in place, even though their cameras still were. Let me just say, I personally don't find it productive to comment on it until all the facts are out there, whether it be major crimes or even a very specific but high-profile one like this here. I know there's a lot of rampant speculation out there about what may have been some of the motivations, some of the actual situations beyond it, or what may be considered apparent or not here. But I leave that up to individuals, as I don't find it a good thing to comment on this point in time until more facts fully come to light.
Don't you think it's a little curious, though, that, like I said, every time you get, a murder, something on a body cam or something like that, some kind of incident, they always have it right afterwards and released on the news. But for some reason or other, with all this speculation, wouldn't it be nice just to be able to, if they have nothing to hide, let's see the body cam. Let's see what's going on and everything. But for some reason or another, because it's Pelosi's husband and because we've got a DOJ report and a reporter who has been suspended because of his report that he said that he viewed the body cam and said that this and what he saw, all of a sudden he just he's gone, and we can't see the body cam. But this is the speaker of the, and this was the speaker of the House.
Well, yeah,
it was just before an election.
For now, yeah. Yes, I get the part that it's significant and it's high profile in a lot of ways here, but on your previous point, actually, about how body cams are released and the way they are often done with it, let me just say this, that anytime body cams are released, often it's a very clear-cut thing, and often, I'll be also perfectly honest with you, often in support of, well, whatever the releasing agency in those cases is. Oftentimes when you see it, that it's have to be like sued for, something like that, the people who have sued it, if it's still in their favor, they'll often automatically release that here. Now, as much as there should be equal justice under the law there, I don't think for a second that anyone is thinking, well, sure, it's the Speaker of the House, but I'm just going to make sure that this gets released and consequences be damned. I don't think anyone in that position in those places is thinking like, yeah, no, I'm sure nothing could come back on me if I just say, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. I think this is going to be handled very carefully. Probably, yeah, a higher level of scrutiny than would usually be expected, but I guess I'm not going to necessarily be surprised about it in this case here. So, having not seen the body cam there, I know that there's also been some reports about the actual nature or lack thereof of the dress that the suspected assailant and victim were in this case here. So, I'm guessing there's quite a lot of deference being given. So until I see it, until I'm able to actually fully view it for myself here, I just, you're welcome to, of course, have your own speculation, but it's not one I'm going to be particularly inclined to speculate on.
Yeah, I agree. Until we see the body cam, we can't really do it. But let's find out if now the narrative from now on is going to be not only what the reporters say, but we're going to add that it was unclear if the 82-year-old was already injured or what his mental state was. If that turns out to be, all the time before that, nobody said anything about that. Now, 3 days ago, the Washington Examiner comes out that. Let's see if the narrative goes that way now from now on.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. Well,
all right.
Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Yeah. Stay well, stay safe. God bless. And let's go, Brandon. And also, Messiah Franklin, I would like to know what you mean when you say, remember what, whatever he said.
I think he's saying what Rex said.
What Rex said. Thank you.
Right.
I would like to know exactly what you mean by that. Okay. So if you do call in, Messiah Franklin, I would like for you to answer that for me. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a good one there. All right, and that's going to take us through that next break in the top of the hour here. So we're still taking those calls, of course, as we do during this point during the program. So if you want to get on the line, if you want to add your 2 cents, that number to do so, of course, is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We'll get some more of those comments as well. But again, phone line if you want to. Back after this break in the top of the hour news here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On El Paso freeways, all north and southbound exit lanes on Joe Battle at North Loop Drive are closed, and there's a backup to the I-10 interchange. A vehicle's blocking the right lane on Martin Luther King Boulevard approaching the 54 Gateway. 54 South is slow with delays from Sean Haggerty down to Trans Mountain. And Global Reach, 10-minute delays from Liberty Expressway down to Montana. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now, so do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand. Finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from. All that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
Because you never hear this.
Hey, hon, I'm late. Chris, I am so pleased you missed the beginning of our meeting.
Thanks for making me wait, Dad. I talked to a lot of strangers.
Check on your commute. Stay informed. Traffic and weather all day. Or you might never hear the end of it.
Well, you were late to our anniversary dinner that one time.
Yes, how could
News
I forget?
on the hour. El Paso's News Radio. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio. I'm Chris Coraggio. Police in Colorado have identified the 5 people killed at an LGBTQ club late Saturday night. Colorado Springs Police Chief Adrian Vasquez named the deceased at the Colorado Springs club, but would not name the suspected killer.
Too often, society loses track of the victims of these sad and tragic events in all the talk about the suspect.
He also gave thanks to the two people who helped subdue the suspect. The El Paso County DA says charges have not yet been filed against the suspect, but he anticipates several will be filed soon once he's out of the hospital. Alabama's governor is temporarily suspending executions in the state following recent failed attempts. Kay Ivey ordered the Department of Corrections to do a review of the state's execution process after 2 inmates avoided execution within a 2-month period. The Department of Corrections was not able to access the veins of the inmates. Armored personnel carriers are being sent to the U.S.-Mexico border courtesy of the Texas Military Department. The agency will deploy 10 vehicles to the border as part of Operation Lone Star to combat the influx of illegal aliens. The agency has also increased aircraft flights and security efforts along the border. AAA is predicting this will be the third busiest Thanksgiving travel period ever. AAA spokesperson Robert Sinclair says 54 million people will go 50 miles or more from home.
Every major road, I'm sure, will be packed with traffic, particularly after 5 p.m. on Wednesday as commuters and holiday travelers mix together.
Air travel is expected to be up 8% compared to last year, and the number of people taking a cruise is way up. AAA says folks can expect to hit the most traffic on the roads between 4 and 8 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Comedian Jay Leno is being released from the burn center where he was treated for injuries suffered in a garage fire. Leno's doctors said last week he should make a full recovery from the burn injuries suffered when a fire erupted from a vintage car he was working on in his Burbank garage. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio. In a surprise move, the Disney company is making big changes in the front office. Rory O'Neill reports.
With the stock down 40% this year, political entanglements, and dwindling broadcast TV numbers, the board of directors at Disney is making a change and bringing back popular CEO Bob Iger. Bob Chapek is being allowed to resign. Chapek lasted less than 3 years on the job, guiding the company through a pandemic that beat up the bottom line, but also creating a divide over what critics have called Florida's Don't Say Gay law. I'm Rory O'Neill.
The Chicago area prosecutor who put serial killer John Wayne Gacy behind bars is dead at the age of 81. William Kunkel Jr. was found dead of natural causes in his home over the weekend. He also prosecuted the DuPage 7. They were the 7 officers accused and later acquitted of railroading Rolando Cruz in the 1983 kidnapping, rape, and murder of Janine Nicarico in Naperville, Illinois.
I wish you health and love, prosperity. Be kind to each other, okay? And farewell.
The Rocket Man played his final U.S. show at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles Sunday night. Sir Elton John filled the career-spanning set list with hits like Benny and the Jets, Crocodile Rock, and Don't Go Breaking My Heart, which saw Kiki D come out and join him on stage. He also performed duets with Dua Lipa and Brandi Carlile before taking his final bow with Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. A number of famous names shared messages to Elton before the show, including President Biden, who thanked the singer for his activism that he said saved countless lives. The show was the first ever global live stream to be shown on Disney+, and Elton's final remarks and song were simulcast on iHeart radio stations across the country. Mariah Carey is joining the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The singer posted on Instagram that her childhood dream is coming to life. She'll be performing her iconic 1994 holiday song, All I Want for Christmas Is You, just before Santa's Float. The parade kicks off Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern on NBC. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
FTX goes bust and reveals the biggest fraudulent scandal with ties to the Democratic Party and the deep state. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
I loved playing high school sports. I loved the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, all the pageantry, and I wanted to keep playing. But I graduated. No colleges called, and neither did the pros. So, to stay close to the game I loved, I decided to become a high school official. You know, a referee. When I played high school sports, I learned the importance of integrity, good sportsmanship, and respect for the rules. Now, as a high school official, I get to help model these same values to others. Maybe the colleges and the pros didn't call, but the kids in Texas did. And now I'm enjoying the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, and all the pageantry of high school sports all over again.
This message presented by the Texas University Interscholastic League and the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, as Mondo Manganda is over there. Hello to you as well, or yo right back at you, to be more in your parlance there. And anyway, if you want to add your 2 cents, that's one of the ways you can do so. But of course, we have that phone line open at this point during the show, which we usually do. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Talking about a few different things, including the continued saga of the embattled district attorney for El Paso, facing a few more challenges, both in professional and personal professional cases, including, well, attorneys leaving both sides of that, as well as more talk about bonds, more talk about what will be going on with Title 42 and preparations therein, particularly on the city side of things. I'm sure we'll get more from the county, well, maybe not this week, but in the coming weeks on their level of preparation, what they're going to be focusing on, but also their bonds up for question there. So a whole lot going on. I feel like there was, when I was first coming up as a young gumshoe reporter, no, we didn't actually use that phrase back then, but the idea of things really slowing down, not much happening during the holidays, was to a certain extent accurate. So I also have Ida Beza Gardner over on the social media. Hello to you as well with the wave. But I feel like we're not really slowing down much at all these days. Like, we'll see. And yes, we'll be taking some time off for the end of year holidays. Don't expect y'all to be as on your toes as we would be as well. But I wonder if things are actually going to slow down this year. Kind of doesn't feel like it. Things continue happening very rapidly and constantly. At the very least, December 21st is that supposed end of Title 42, so buckle up. We'll see how that actually works out for our region here. Might be not some very silent nights is the kind of expectation that I have. Anyway, let's go ahead and take another call here. Again, if you want to get on the line, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. Wanted to comment on the situation on the border.
Oh, sure.
Yes, I'm sure Governor Abbott has his critics, but I need to point out who else has done anything to try to curb this influx of migrants.
I mean, you would expect there to be some national level efforts, and of course there is the enforcement that's been going on, but I think one of the more interesting parts, I guess, would be beyond what we talked about today with the deploying of armored vehicles by the Texas State Guard, is actually the fact that, and not one that's been as focused on within the governor's announcement, for lack of a better phrase, when he kind of did this change in rhetoric and started using the invasion language that he had previously eschewed, is that he's talking about cross-border cooperation. So somewhat more, I guess, in the vein of, if somewhat differently handled, a few months ago when they had the increase the secondary inspections being done by DPS for all of the 18-wheelers crossing the border. Of course, that caused a lot of upheaval, a lot of headaches for a lot of people locally and statewide. But I think that the major point there was kind of an inflection point in order to more or less force cooperation from, well, governors of the adjoining states south of the border. And so I'm wondering, that hasn't been as much focus on, but it essentially was hinted at what he said in that more recent statement.
Yes, true. Well, to tell you the truth, the way the border is right now, especially with narco traffickers being heavily armed. You do need armored personnel carriers, and this M113 that they're using, that's basically relegated to a second line defense. It's not a first line vehicle, as a matter of fact.
I mean, yeah, you see it in a lot of like National Guard inventories these days. Apparently, we donated a few dozen of them, if not like maybe 60 or more, to Ukraine. But I mean, I think they came online before or during Vietnam, so they're dated as much as any long-serving piece of military equipment and workhorses are dated. But the reason that I had a couple of issues with the Texas Tribune article on this is it was mentioning attachments. And I feel like in the same kind of vein, whenever we start talking about firearm attachments here, it can get a little bit out of hand. I'm just going to quote directly here. Just bear with me for 1 second. Again, from the Texas Tribune article out as a little bit earlier this week. Armored personnel carriers like the M113 are designed to carry infantry troops across modern battlefields alongside tanks. They can be equipped with a range of weapons, heavy machine guns, grenade launchers, anti-tank missiles, or even large cannons similar to those mounted on tanks. It's not clear what weapons, if any, will be on the Texas Guards M113s at the border.
Well, I would at least hope they have. I hope they at least have 7.62 millimeter machine guns on there, because, like I said, that is a lightly armored vehicle. That's armored Dura aluminum alloy. And I mean, even your SWAT vehicles for El Paso PD are better armored than that thing is.
I mean, they're called battle taxis. They nickname them for a reason. They're meant to get you there and then get out, as opposed to busting through, so to speak.
Yes, that's true, but their firepower is designed to be defensive, not offensive, if they have any at all. And even the gunboats that the DPS has, they're really light machine guns that they're equipped with. So anyway, to those people out there that are criticizing the governor, let me ask you, what has Biden done to fix this border fiasco, other than provide more individuals to process these migrants much faster? Ridiculous. I don't hear anybody talking about keeping these people out, but they want to submit more resources to process them in the country faster. But anyway, Andrew, I digress. I turn the mic over to you.
Well, thank you very much for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Take care.
I think some potential. I mean, this is definitely a ramping up, definitely fits the rhetoric that the governor is pushing for. To RJ, calling for a D all the above approach works with serious deterrent. I'm not sure that's the kind of right. Okay, whether or not there's a need for it in any specific instances, I would imagine that more of like a QRF, quick response force, if we're truly worried about armed groups in any way, or the arming of the narco traficantes, anything like that, would be more appropriate than, well, what we've been seeing of groups of people. I mean, the most, at least locally anyway, the biggest armed response we've seen is that one dude with that one big flag, as he was then getting pepper sprayed by CBP and Border Patrol previously here. Joey Carlson asked about a video or an article we can try to take a look at that during the break here, but not always something we can do immediately during a show. Anyway, let's get to at least one more call here. Again, if you want to get on the line, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Joe on the west side here with us right now. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, I just want your opinion on the alleged insurrection of January the 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that was a real insurrection on January the 6th, or do you think the government was involved?
Okay, well, I don't think that insurrection is the correct phrase to use. I think riot is the most appropriate term here, because whether or not there were individuals that had plans there, that's part of the, ongoing cases, and what I've been most interested to see out of the whole investigation, or the hearings turning into an investigation now, maybe kind of. Anyway, the idea of the fact that there were people there who may or may not have actually had plans to do it, getting into essentially a mob situation. That's why I think riot is the most appropriate one for it. But I think what you might be getting at here, from maybe forecasting a little bit, look to right me if I'm wrong, talking about there was a lot of discussion that has been about, essentially Capitol Police, their presence and their ability or lack thereof to actually deal with what happened that day. Is that kind of stuff you're getting at there?
No, what I'm getting at is you and your colleagues in the media. I know it's not your job because it didn't happen in El Paso, but your fellow shills for the Democrat Communist Party in the media have done nothing to investigate who was Ray Epps, because we have Ray Epps all over the camera, yet ignorant people such as Raul and your other callers, Eric McNabb, they have no idea about who Ray Epps is, but he's the one inciting things. You have the field officers from the FBI in Detroit who are the ones that sparked the so-called Michigan kidnapping the governor, involved in this very thing. They all got the promotions. None of the people, by the way, were convicted in Detroit or in Michigan. It was all a scam. But they were all promoted to the Washington, D.C. office, and they're behind this. And you would think that based on, have you seen the tapes on Ray Epps, by the way? I've been deciding all this stuff. Have you seen those tapes?
The what, I'm sorry?
The Ray Epps video.
Oh, Ray Epps, yes. I've seen some of those. I mean, we've talked about those previously, yeah.
Wouldn't a reasonable media person be interested in that? And let's look at the pipe bombers. Okay, so allegedly, you had the Vice President of the United States at the DNC office that day, and the pipe bombs, and yet it's been almost 20 months and we haven't even bothered to look into the pipe bombers. What are your thoughts on the pipe bombers? Because there's so many inconsistencies. You realize that, right?
Oh, yeah, no, I remember that story coming up about there being potential threats around, not necessarily the capital area, but the national capital.
Pipe bomber? How come the FBI is hiding videos from the pipe bombers? How come, according to Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund and the Inspector General, that the breach of the Capitol perimeter is just getting started when the pipe bombs diverted them? Yet these pipe bombs were not able to detonate on their own, and they were placed the night before, okay? The pipe bomber used an old-fashioned mechanical timer with the 1-hour max time setting, but planted the bombs at 8 p.m. the night before, and the Vice President's Secret Service didn't see that just hanging out there. I mean, it's as obvious as the nose on your face. The pipe bomber, I mean, I'll text it on the chat here. Just read over it, man, and ask yourself, you know, this is a Fed direction. This is all planned, and it really bothers me that there's no more real media in America no more. And people in the real media are censored altogether from everything. I just posted all the facts on the pipe bomb, and nobody's curious. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they haven't pinged the phone of that person? Why haven't they released the video? Why are they covering this up? It's just like the gentleman earlier with Nancy Pelosi's husband. You know, they covered up his video of the CWI. They're covering up this video. I mean, don't you see that something's rotten in Denmark? And aren't you, as a news reporter, even one bit curious to report this and investigate?
I mean, again, we have our purview here, but I will say that having seen, of course, I mean, we were live that day on what was going on within the Capitol building, bringing you that coverage as part of it. And I will say that, I mean, there's a lot concerning there, but that is one of the reasons throughout this whole process, I've been mostly interested in seeing a full and complete investigation into all of it here. I mean, the January 6th hearings were, they had their focus and they had their purpose, but there were a lot more questions, including how the Capitol was able to be breached in the way that it was, with any group of people being able to go up to and smash the windows and gain entry to. The fact that that was even mechanically possible, presence of security forces alone, should be a huge red flag and a huge question being now asked about how can that be dealt with? Because if any group of people of any size can just go up there and breach the secure center of our democracy, like, sure, it should be the people's house. People should be access to it. But I mean, a group of people going there for deleterious purposes, the fact that that can be possible and that was able to be happen is one of the major questions I've wanted to see answered. And that, I guess, would kind of fall into the same vein of what you're talking about there. So that's why I have been as unenthused as I have been about those proceedings. We'll see what actually happens with, again, talking about the hearing proceedings once we get into the next term of Congress. I have a feeling that they are more or less going to end without any major legislation coming out of them. Sure, some of the things discussed there apparently have been turned over to actual investigators to see about, you know, the special counsel and those kind of things being actually appointed here. And that would be closer to actual investigation I've been talking about here. But I don't claim to speak for any other outlet or any other national media person or the FBI or much less any other law enforcement themselves here. But I will agree that there are certain questions that I have that I would like to see a fuller actual reveal and talk about here. And if that's not focused on, I don't think that's going to be to the benefit of particularly anyone, because when you start leaving these questions unanswered, that's what then starts leading to the kind of wild speculation that just having open transparency often ends up solving. Whether you reject what data is, what the actual, investigations put out there, that's your business. But when there's not even an answer, when there's not even okay, here are what some results are saying, here are some of the things that we're looking at and changing, it engenders this. And I don't think it works out in the long run here. So thank you for the point in the call. We got to take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we will get to more calls, more comments, more of everything we do on the line here. And if you want to get on the line, the number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash on I-10 westbound at Reynolds exit is blocking the two right lanes, including the Reynolds exit. Expect delays. There's a backup right now to before Geronimo Drive. Global Reach is slow southbound Liberty Expressway down to Montana with 30-minute delays. Joe Battle northbound at Rojas, couple of vehicles up on the right shoulder. And an injury accident Montana Drive westbound at Saul Kleinfeld. Take Pebble Hills as your alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
We might have just witnessed the last cryptocurrency bull run, but not for Bitcoin, which I think will run again soon. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you run a business, we know how confusing it can be to evaluate all the different advertising options. And at iHeart, we're here to help. We're America's #1 audio company, #1 in radio, #1 in podcasting, digital radio, and much more. With all those insights and all those potential customers, we can help you find new and more efficient ways to grow your business. So reach out, let's chat, and learn more about how we can help your business find new growth. Visit iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
It's important to live healthy and to be with the right healthcare team.
For us, that's WellMed.
WellMed doctors get to know us, and they help us to live healthy. They coordinate with specialists and the pharmacy so we get the care we deserve.
Because your health matters.
The Medicare annual enrollment period is October 15th to December 7th. Visit mydocmatters.com or call 888-824-9568. Calling this number will connect you to the brokerage, a licensed insurance agency that can answer your Medicare questions and help you choose a plan. We accept original Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans.
This Black Friday, we're checking everyone off your list with unbeatable deals at Ulta Beauty all week long. Starting November 20th, shop hundreds of exciting deals in store and online. And beginning Tuesday, get $12 mascaras from brands like Benefit and $10 lippies from brands like Fenty, and so much more. Because our kind of holiday is you having your kind of holiday. So what are you waiting for? Hurry to an Ulta Beauty near you or buy online and pick up in store. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful.
For the latest holiday tech gifts at great prices, Staples has you covered.
I need unbeatable prices on tech for everyone on my nice list.
Staples has you covered with the hottest tech gifts at Black Friday prices. Right now, the new Apple AirPods Pro 2nd generation is just $199 with the Staples Connect app. Plus, save up to $330 off HP, Lenovo, and Asus laptops. The latest tech gifts are at Staples, the working and learning store. Offers end 11/26. Limit 1 on AirPods. AirPods sale price $229 without app offer. In-store only.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. We try to, as much as possible, during the majority of the week here, except for Free For All Friday, which I guess we're doing... what are you talking about Wednesday? I don't know. Let me think of a better alliteration name for it here, because first we'll be off Thursday and Friday for the holiday. Hope you can spend some wonderful time with you and your families or whoever you choose to. or at least enjoy the football, however it works for you. Yeah. One other thing I want to mention, just trying to reframe a little bit more locally here, is that 5.4 magnitude earthquake actually now being looked at to be investigated by the U.S. Geologic Survey and others. The article title from the Texas Tribune there. Texas Oil and Gas Agency investigating 5.4 magnitude earthquake in West Texas, the largest in 3 decades. Of course, that's the one that was, I didn't feel it. Some people over in like the Far East area I was hearing from did say they feel it, like, maybe, book on a stand getting knocked over, that kind of thing. But again, not exactly huge in our area, even if, no earthquake is exactly like, I'm sure it's fine. But Mondamon kind of saying there are a few things in life more important than the Dallas Cowboys. I hope that works out for you however you want it to. I know some that are literally making the pilgrimage, so there are some closer than you might think that would agree with you on that point. But hey, whatever works for you, just just good luck with it. I'll be watching on TV. That's my plan. In any case, we do, of course, have Wacky Wednesday also being suggested for that. I feel like that invites more chicanery than I might want to necessarily include, but we'll work on it. Anyway, get back to those phone lines again. If you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Eric on the east side here with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Well, hello there. Yes, on Friday, I re-listened to that call that I had called in, I'd made, and I didn't. There's a technical error on your end because I couldn't hear you talking at all the first time, two times you had asked that question.
Mm-hmm.
You had asked something. I forgot what it was. But I just want to say, like, I wouldn't speak over someone who's talking over the phone. That's absurd and not civilized. But
okay.
In general, whenever these right-wing terrorist attacks happen, like what happened on January 6th or against Nancy Pelosi, right-wing media, they always try to sweep under the rug the fact that the person was right-wing and it was a right-wing terrorist attack. And they always try to speak up or make the BLM protests out to be things that they weren't. Like, if you were following them closely, you'll see that a lot of the civil unrest was caused by right-wing people, agitators, police violating the First Amendment rights of protesters because they wanted to remove them. Like when Trump did that on for that photo op he did, he straight up told the police to violate the constitutional rights of the people that were peacefully in that square. And then people were arrested and damage was caused by that. Right-wing people caused a lot of that damage. But when you look at the statistics and data, we have a right-wing terrorism problem that's being swept under the rug and minimized every single time it happens, and it prevents us from taking steps to prevent future attacks. And it prevents the government from taking action because there's no mandate from the people. But, right-wing media is responsible for the perpetuation of these attacks whenever they sweep it under the rug. And they need to speak out against these fringe far right-wing conspiracy theories, like when they disagree with them, or else they're just as complicit for them being perpetuated if they don't use their platform to correct the record. These beliefs cause terrorism. Like, January 6th, believing these election fraud lies.
I just need to stop right there with the phrase you just said, police-led terrorism. Is that the phrase you just used? I want to make sure I heard you exactly correctly here.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You said I just want to make sure I heard you correctly here. Police-led terrorism?
No. I didn't say that at all. No.
Okay, then what were you intending to say there?
No. I may have misspoke, but I doubt it. But right-wing media is perpetuating. I said perpetuating. That's what it was. Perpetuating these far right-wing conspiracy theories and the terrorist attacks that they caused, like the January 6th insurrection, which we know people went there with the intent of overturning the election and preventing the count, to mince words and just call them rioters, just like they're like BLM protesters or something. That's disingenuous. Like Newsmax, for example, right-wing media, they're heralding Ashley Babbitt as some martyr for the right-wing cause and saying that the cop did something wrong and are now going after law enforcement. These are mainstream right-wing information sources perpetuating and encouraging these right-wing extremists and terrorist acts.
Again, I think the major issue we keep coming back to here is you trying to hold everyone else in the world accountable for things not even said necessarily on this program here, but let's address a couple of these things here. There is a phrase called a police riot, in which there is a response that may be disproportionate to the incident that was unfolding there, such as a protest, a march, etc. Honestly, a good number of examples I could think back to the civil rights era to completely remove it from the current circumstance about how if people were marching and protesting, and there was an out-toward official response revolving around, water cannons, dogs, what have you, and then making it, therefore, get out of hand that way. Yeah, that is certainly a thing that has happened and could happen if not handled very carefully. I think there were at least a couple examples I can think of during the, just to make sure we're clear here, and we're not talking about the Bureau of Land Management, but the Black Lives Matter movement, I believe you're referring to there. You got to be more specific when we're talking about BLM around these areas here, because we got BLM land that I can see from the edge of our station here. So point is that, yeah, there were a couple incidents I saw video of, as this was one of the first major ability to live stream protests in the aftermath of them. There were a couple times I saw what I would probably consider that. I don't remember the exact date, so I couldn't pin you down on them here, but they come to mind for me where protests or even vigils were happening, and then an outsize, a way too strong response happened, and it made the situation get out of hand. Now, whether I'm willing to call that what happened on January 6th, as much as we are getting well and truly afield from what we're supposed to be talking about today, but if we're going to get into it, let's screw it, let's do it. If we're talking about what happened on January 6th, I don't know much what we would call that besides a riot, because if you're talking about a few, whatever number of people you're going to call it, people going there and therefore getting incited to do something. I mean, sure, there have been notable bad actors who have been notably begun to be prosecuted as a result of, well, yes, some of it was talked about during January 6th, the hearings, that is, but also them coming from actual investigations into them here. So that has been one of the major points that I have and we have been in complete disagreement of, as the idea of what could actually come out of these January 6th hearings. And so if you're calling them or anything saying that what could actually come out of them as incorrect, the notable thing is that there have been references from them to actual prosecution, but particularly when it comes to the figure of the former president. I think what this really ends up coming down to is the idea that the January 6th committees, the question of what they could actually do is a very limited one because of the nature of what they are, not because of any of they just don't want to take it on, or you can't do it because he's such a great, none of those kind of things. It is they are limited in what they can do in imposing penalties themselves directly. Literally, the penalties they can impose are, say, contempt of Congress, which they have done in appropriate circumstances. Steve Bannon comes to mind from his lack of response and those kind of things. I think it was almost a performative thing on his part. Frankly, it helps his podcast, those kind of things. But beyond that, if you actually want to talk about what could come out of it, I mean, removal from office would be part of the actual, enumerated powers given to the congressional branch when it comes to that. And given the fact that the president is no longer, from the point that they're talking about, sitting, makes it that it would have to be referred out. So anytime we've been talking about the hearings and the actual outcome of them, whenever it comes to the top level that they were pretty obviously working towards in the narrative that they were describing and the narrative that they were developing, is that it was going to have to be kind of stuck. They were always going to have to refer it to someone else. That was the only outcome that was ever going to really be possible.
Yeah. You consistently refuse to acknowledge the importance in knowing that Trump lied about the election fraud that caused right-wing terrorism. It's important to know if those election fraud claims were based on any evidence, because it's important to know if Trump tried to overturn the election or not, because he's trying to delegitimize the DOJ investigation and every investigation into his crimes. We already know. You mince words with the proven. If Rudy Giuliani, Bill Burr, the White House counsel all said under oath that he knew the election fraud lies were untrue and still told them, that really matters. That will prevent if the public is made aware of that, that will prevent them from committing terrorism when the DOJ prosecutes Trump for trying to overturn the election with election fraud lies. And again, there's that Georgia federal case that's already proved that he told lies to them in that case. The judge has publicly said that.
Again, if we're mincing words about prove and proven here, that case has not concluded. Penalties and decisions have not been made. That a judge's statements on whether they're accepting the evidence is one thing. If we're going to start talking about and debating rules of evidence here, that is not what this show is focused on, but more than willing to do so. Didn't end up becoming a lawyer, but was very focused on that in a lot of my ways here. Haven't studied my rules of evidence, but if you want to bone up on that, we certainly can. But if you're coming down to, I guess, really what it comes to confirmation bias, that you have made a decision about the figure of this person, and I'm not even saying that I necessarily always disagree with the way that you are putting these things on, but if it comes down to, and therefore everyone who disagrees with me is bad or evil or whatever, what I've been saying consistently when it comes to these investigations is that I've been wanting the actual investigation, which often ends up being a not very public process, because the phrase that's often used here is that we are not commenting as it is part of an ongoing or pending investigation, because they don't want to contaminate the evidence that would be going into that here. So we're talking about evidence and things going into it. Yeah, people doing malfeasance and bad things should definitely be held accountable for that. I don't care what level of government or what position that they have held. If there are political questions that go into it, that should probably be a consideration that is taken. And what it should probably mean for those on the behalf of the investigating agencies is that they need to be dead to rights on everything that they are putting forth and that they are moving on. Because if they're just going to try to steamroll or railroad anyone, particularly, I mean, they should never do that, but particularly at that high level, don't think it's going to work out for them. And much as there is the former president was a political, and before he was political, was a reality TV star. Of course, he's going to make a statement about these things. Whether or not someone takes action on them, I feel is more akin to them. And honestly, you look at what the actions that have been taken, the primary way that these lines have been used has been as fundraising lines, which is why I'm still mildly surprised that he did announce his campaign for the next term of office, because it's kind of lessening the power of the purse, essentially. I mean, I'm sure there were plenty of people who donated as the announcement was made, but that's more campaign specific and not, well, general party specific. So we'll see how that actually works out in the lead up to the next election. But if we're saying that all of these things are therefore just forget, they don't even throw the book at them, just forget it. It's already been proved, and we're mincing words on that here. I mean, we're just going in circles at this point. So we're well overdue for this next break. So I appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth anyway, but we got to move on and try to talk about some local things. Again, we got Wednesday coming up. That'll be our free-for-all show this week, even if we're getting well out of hand already here. In any case, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hey everyone, this is Robert Olgain with your KFOX 14 News Update. El Paso District Attorney Yvonne Rosales could be suspended from her job until the outcome of a trial that seeks to remove her from office. That decision as to whether she should be temporarily suspended will take place at a court hearing on December 15th. A district judge says he'll determine whether Rosales should be temporarily suspended from office pending trial. If so, the appointment of another person to perform the duties of office will take place. Rosales is facing a civil trial that seeks to remove her from office, alleging incompetence. That civil trial is set to start on March 13th. El Paso police have identified a suspect in an early morning hit and run that killed a 42-year-old pedestrian. According to police, Jared Scott Ressa was killed when he was hit by a vehicle driven by 23-year-old Johan Ricardo Jaime. It happened Saturday night at about 12:30. Ressa was struck crossing Mesa near Kern Street. Police say he was not in a crosswalk. According to police, the driver left the scene but returned an hour later and was arrested on a charge of accident involving death. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olgain.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
That earlier crash on I-10 westbound at Reynolds is cleared. All lanes are back open, but there's still a minor backup to Geronimo Drive. Border Highway eastbound just before Schuster, a vehicle stopped in the left lane, stay to the right. It's causing a bit of a backup. Slow traffic on Global Reach, 20-minute delays from Liberty Expressway down to Montana. And Joe Battle northbound at Rojas has a couple of disabled vehicles up on the right shoulder. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. After a cool and kind of dreary weekend, we are starting off our new work week, which is the holiday week ahead, under some very quiet weather. In fact, temperatures will rebound nicely back to the 60s. That is, of course, until our next weather maker, which brings colder temperatures for Thanksgiving and even possibly a chance for some rain. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
FTX goes bust and reveals the biggest fraudulent scandal with ties to the Democratic Party and the deep state. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Want to get a $300 Visa card from your Medicare plan? At WellCare, our Medicare Advantage plans are simplified so you can enjoy all the great benefits you care about most, like our WellCare Flex card, a preloaded debit card that gives you up to $300 to pay for extra dental, vision, or hearing expenses not covered by your plan, like hearing aids, dentures, prescription glasses, copays, and more. It's just one more way WellCare is improving every aspect of Medicare to give you access to the top-tier benefits you want most, plus a little extra. To learn more about WellCare, visit wellcarefornm.com today. That's wellcarefornm.com to enroll today. WellCare, it's Medicare done well. Benefits vary by plan. WellCare is the Medicare brand for Centene Corporation, an HMO, PPO, PFFS, PDP plan with a Medicare contract, and is an approved Part D sponsor. Our DSNP plans have a contract with the state Medicaid program. Enrollment in our plans depends on contract renewal.
Staples has you covered for all your custom printing, just in time for the holidays. And right now at Staples, you can save 40% on custom holiday cards and invitations, in-store and online. Offer ends 12/17. Exclusions and restrictions apply. Explore more at Staples, the working and learning store. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us as much as we can for the rest of this over on the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in there, and we try to deal with subjects here, but sometimes we're just going in circles and not actually discuss. If you actually discuss things, you're going to find yourself having a much better time here. I will say that. If you're just wanting to lambast someone or people that you don't like, literally everywhere else on the internet exists for that. Anyway, dropping those likes and reactions, we do appreciate Flaco Jimenez, Amber Banda, Moises, Buenafil Cetina. I think so. Let me know if I did that right. Ion Graham, Ida Beza Gardner, Groku Manda, James Holm, Destiny Jennifer, Ed Clore, Alex Campos, Richard Jadasik, Robbie Forbes, Monica Cervantes, and Jim McCravey. Appreciate that. It has helped us with all those algorithmic things that help us be able to talk about, well, what affects us here in the borderland. Yes, it's a short week, and yes, Wednesday will be our free-for-all show. Can't call it free-for-all Friday, and free-for-all Wednesday doesn't have quite the same ring, and I don't think we're going to go with Wacky Wednesday because I feel like we got enough of that going off in the general sense, but we'll figure something out. Because, yes, of course, Turkey Day, we'll be spending time with our families or your favorite football team, whichever works out for you, and hopefully it'll still be your favorite football team by the end of the evening. But in any case, let's squeeze in a couple more calls on right now. We do have Kevin on the east side here with us right now. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm interested in this Rosales case, the district attorney.
Absolutely.
The latest I've heard, and I stand to be corrected on this, of course, but no one has actually contacted or seen this woman?
So that was a very specific circumstance. The judge has ordered in the I believe that's San Medrano and the I can't remember the actual court number of it, where the Walmart case, the August 3rd case, is proceeding, has ordered her to appear in court on November 30th. I think that the real part of it that's coming out you're referring to came out of recent filings filed by Joe Spencer, lead counsel for the defense in this case, saying that they have attempted to serve the district attorney and at least I think one of the lead attorneys, which may or may not be, I'm not, so don't quote me on this, but there was Assistant District Attorney Curtis Cox, who also had not been found, but he has now both removed himself from the case and resigned from the El Paso District Attorney's office. So I don't know if he was subject to it, but if he was, he certainly won't be anymore. But essentially, this was a process server question that they've been attempting to serve papers related to these cases, some of the injunctions on them, etc., to the district attorney, Yvonne Rosales herself, and that she was not able to be located for that process. So take it as you will that, I mean, never having been subject, and knock on wood, never will be, to a process server, one of those you've been served kind of people, my understanding is that they're pretty tenacious.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. And therefore, if she cannot be found by anybody, including these rather, shall we say, energetic process servers, I wonder if any of the authorities have thought about filing a missing persons report on her with the police.
Well, I mean, her office has spoken essentially on her behalf, and I guess in this case, I mean, there have been requests for comment, etc., from, well, our news partners, other agencies, and reporting concerns in town. And I think that the major thing that keeps being brought up the last time we made concerted efforts to get response from the district attorney and her office was that there is a gag order in place on this trial and this case. Therefore, they will not be making any public statements. And then on the personal side of things, the personal professional side of things, because it's a personal case against her, but involving her professional position, this gets complicated, I know, is that they will not be commenting on the removal case until essentially it is resolved.
Okay, I just have a funny feeling that she might have just skipped town or was skipped from town, and she's nowhere to be found.
Well, again, no hard evidence I can point to at that, but I will say we are coming up essentially right after the holiday here, November 30th. There is that status hearing in which she has been ordered to appear by the sitting judge, and I guess that's the point I'll be watching to answer any of those kind of concerns or those questions, because that will certainly garner further action if it doesn't happen.
I understand. Okay, thank you for clarifying that for me, Andrew. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
You too. Bye.
All right, I think we got time for at least one more call on the line here. Again, short week. We'll be taking more calls throughout the tomorrow show, and then Wednesday will be our open line for the week. Plenty more to talk about, including some local events coming up here. But right now, we do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
All right, way to go. Right out of the box. I'm having to contend with this stupid static. But
apologies.
I'm hearing every sixth word you're saying. So, I'm pretty smart. I can piece together every other sixth word and kind of figure out what you're saying, but it's not the same as listening to you clearly. So I'll get up on the website and listen to what your whole program was. Well, right out of the box, let me just say this. This is exciting. The Donnie Dotar doofus declared he wants to become the president again. And all his big-time donors are bailing on him. He is becoming, and this is French, persona non grata. Yeah, I know it's Latin, but I like to say it what I like to say. But anyway, he is so screwed. Now, all you people out there in the Southwest border region that love the Donnie Dotar doofus, by the time he gets in jail, all you got to do for you people that still love him is send him cards and letters and loving things to the Federal Bureau of Prisons, United States of America, and it'll get there. So what do you think of them apples, you Donnie Dotar doofus-loving nut jobs? What do you think of that?
I get the majority of your point here is about that future presidential, or again, current, but we're still not even out of this election cycle yet, much more to begin thinking about the next one. But honestly, that is a very relevant point whenever it comes to the fundraising component of this. I think that essentially there was, officially speaking, statements being put out there, more than a little bit of consternation given the outcome of 2020 with the former president. And essentially what some saw as, and some have even in the comments have said, is a sideshow, as opposed to focusing on the issues, making it very personal and very about him. And that had been essentially, in my analysis, my very kind of back of the hand napkin analysis, one of the reasons that he was still not exactly tolerated, because actual control of the party, who has control of it, is more than just a technical question. It's almost an existential one, and has been for the last, 2016, you really want to pick it up from there. But the real reason that I think that the status quo had been maintained up to this point had been on, well, the fundraising aspect, because whatever you may think of the former president, he had definitely a very strong fundraising influence on his base. So now with this announcement, and this is, I've said before, and I think it bears repeating, that actually the movement towards now his campaign will move beyond the, he'd been previously doing kind of like the goodwill, showing up with certain candidates saying, hey, this is my pick, you need to therefore donate to them, do whatever, and of course keep donating to the party. That link has not exactly been severed, but has now been diminished, because now that he's got his campaign back up and going again, he's not kind of this general goodwill ambassador, so to speak, for the party and for his perspective and the supporters that he has built in with him. Because make no mistake, he still has a very lot of specific, and I would almost call it grassroots if it wasn't so widespread, support that he has garnered and he has created of himself. And that is still very much interested in having that on the behalf of the party, individual candidates, etc. So now that we've had this movement to this next campaign, the question is, how will the fundraising reflect that? And essentially, I think that some of the, maybe not any individual candidate, any individual office holder, but those within the party itself and those more concerned with the actual outcome of the next set of elections will be, what use is it of now? Because if there's not anything else going besides to the campaign, there might be some questions about, do we need to go along with this? Some of these have been put out publicly and obviously it's already stated about. So this will be one of those things that even as we are approaching, and rapidly, almost like a meteor sometimes, 2024, that'll be one of the bigger questions I am watching here, because there's a hell of a lot of speculation on how this, once we even get closer to the primaries, will actually turn out. And the fundraising going into that, again, that's been his biggest use to the party in the meantime, not being in office and not having a direct handle on policy. And so now that link has, again, not been severed, but changed, how will it actually work from now? We haven't exactly had enough time to see how it will bear up, but that's one of the big questions I'm going to be watching.
Well, I hear what you're saying. A lot of things what you're saying are 100% right. But with this guy and all the smart Republican, Willy wonks out there, realize that this guy is poison. And guess what? Even if he runs, he's going to, the way he is with his thought process, he's such a narcissistic nut job. He's going to do everything he can to ruin everybody else, because just that's the way he is with his stupid ego. Now, I don't know how the big shots in the Republican Party, if he runs and becomes a spoiler, this is going to be so interesting, Andrew. I have no idea. No, I do have an idea. But what an insane belief of this current Republican Party. These people need to get their act together and square it away. That's what I want to say.
I think that is essentially the end game that is wanting to be avoided from, beyond the fundraising question, which is what I'm, according to Louis Pinato, battling on about here. Hey, you're still tuned in. But in any case, the actual splitting, the actual going to the ballot box and dealing with that. What he said during the previous primary process, there wasn't much of one in. There was a couple of kind of challengers in 2020 or the lead up to it, but they really didn't have a snowball's chance in hell, let's be honest with you, given the juggernaut that was the campaign and the presidency at that point, with the base, of course. So the question then being, what will end up happening if there were to be, I don't say if there were to be that Donald Trump doesn't secure the nomination and ends up going to someone else, and he ends up running as his own, as, I don't know, whatever, the real Republican, or however he wants to call himself, or just the Trump party, probably as well. Anything besides, like you said, being a spoiler, splitting the ticket, more specifically, not necessarily between the main base, but between his base and whatever overlap it has with the general Republican base. And I think that is the main thing that will be really at play within both the party and leaders within the party itself here. So I think that there's really two paths forward. Again, cloudy crystal ball, as cloudy as ever, but there's either going to be the embracing and going along with, or fierce opposition. I don't really see a middle ground this time around of saying, oh, we'll see how it works out, because it's either going to be his way, the former president's that is, or going to have to be practically scorched earth. And I'm not sure if it goes to that end, it's going to work out for any of their goals.
Well, I hear you, Andrew. It will be scorched earth. That's just the nature of his beast. But I want to tell you something. This is very, very exciting times to be alive. So you have a good night, Andrew.
You too as well. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
All right.
All right, let's go ahead and take that. Got to take that next break. Coming out, tell you what I got coming up for you on the show, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound is stop and go with 10-minute delays from Hawkins Boulevard to the 54 Patriot. I-10 eastbound is slowed Brown, just before Brown to the 54 Patriot. It's a 7-minute delay. Border Highway eastbound before Schuster, a vehicle stopped in the left lanes causing a backup to Porfirio Diaz. And Global Reach is still slow southbound from Liberty Expressway down to Montana, 25-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
FTX goes bust and reveals the biggest fraudulent scandal with ties to the Democratic Party and the deep state. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. Listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Because everyone deserves excellent medical care, El Paso has its own free community medical clinic. RotoCare is a free walk-in clinic located at 301 South Schutz Drive and is devoted to improving the health of all El Pasoans, including those without insurance or legal documentation. RotoCare is open most Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon. For more information, call 790-0700. RotoCare, because everyone deserves excellent medical care.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Super out of time for this show here, so I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call, and comment. We got more shows coming up for you this week. Tomorrow, talking more about some local events, things like that. Turkey Trot on deck, but also, since it's a short week, we're going to try, let's go with a Wordy Wednesday. I kind of like that one. That'll be our open line show for the week, will be this Wednesday. So, that's the rough plan, but don't worry. Once we come back out of these holidays, hope you all have a restful one, or are going to, because we'll dive right back into it. We're talking about the legislative session. We'll be talking with those campaigns going on right now when it comes to city council. And, of course, we're just a month out of election day there as well, or just under. So a whole lot more to go, whole lot more to come here. So thank you to everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We will do it again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m., as we do usually Monday through Friday, Monday through Wednesday this time. And hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving. If we don't hear you again, in any case, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound is stop and go with 10-minute delays from Hawkins Boulevard to the 54 Patriot. I-10 eastbound is slowed Brown, just before Brown to the 54 Patriot. It's a 7-minute delay. Border Highway eastbound before Schuster, a vehicle stopped in the left lanes causing a backup to Porfirio Diaz. And Global Reach is still slow southbound from Liberty Expressway down to Montana, 25-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now, so do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle.